What's up guys, Rogue9 here, and I want to take a closer look at the changes for the Rainbow Six Siege attacking operator Kali. Her special ability to down other players with one body shot from her sniper rifle at any distance is going away, and instead the current 97 damage of the gun is being upped to 122, and the idea here is to make her easier to understand and use. But as you've already seen from the title, I think that this supposed buff is going to fail spectacularly. Let me show you why. If we look at the patch notes, even before diving into any damage stat analysis, we can see that there is already a little bit of a mixed messaging going on here. First, the devs claim that Kali is underpicked because her main gun is literal dog water. And guess what? It is. But then they immediately drop that train of thought and pivot over to talking about frustration and that the one-shot DBNO mechanic is confusing and that in order to remedy that, the gun is going to be turned into a straight-up damage dealer. Okay, sure, deleting that special mechanic will cause less confusion, but at the same time the one-shot DBNO was the only thing that made the gun even slightly usable in the first place. Converting the gun to straight damage is going to be a massive nerf. Let's crunch some numbers to confirm. Full disclosure, the following discussion is based on the damage stats that Kali is supposed to have according to the info in the patch notes. 122 points up to 25 meters and 97 after 35 meters. Here's the problem though, when I tested the damage of the CSRX, my results showed that something is really wrong with the way that the gun works right now. As long as you're landing body shots with no damage modifiers applied, everything's fine and the gun delivers exactly the damage you would expect for each armor type. But as soon as any additional damage modifiers come into play, things start to go wrong. Rook plates are supposed to reduce damage by 20%. But when I shoot Alibi, a 3-speed, at point blank range, we see the gun do 103 damage instead of 97, so the plates only absorbed 15% damage. Kapkan, a 2-speed, receives 91 damage instead of the expected 87, and while the 1-speed Rook takes 63 damage to the body at long range, not that different from the expected 62, the damage to the leg at the same range is only 34 instead of the expected 40. Something really weird is going on here. Sometimes the damage is exactly right, sometimes it's too high, sometimes it's too low. Initially, on seeing these erratic results, I feared that the entire damage drop-off system had either been changed or broken with this patch, but I spent several hours checking the stats of other guns and they still work exactly as expected. Somehow, it's just the CSRX that is having issues with applying damage multipliers, and I guess that's at least something to be glad about. So, as I said, for the purpose of this discussion, I will be ignoring the completely broken damage results for the CSRX, and instead, I will be going with the stats that the gun is supposed to have. Just be aware that, as of right now, if you're playing Kali or playing against Kali, the damage of her sniper rifle might not always be what you would expect. Now, 122 points of damage sounds like quite a lot at first, and at close range it will in fact kill 3 speeds outright, 2 speeds will be downed, but 1 speeds can survive a body shot with 3 health remaining. And without looking any further, that there is already a massive red flag. Any 1-speed defender you come up against can either be taken down with a well-placed headshot, or will take at least 2 body shots even at distances within the 2-meter social distancing radius, so your character is actually more likely to catch COVID than die to Kali's sniper rifle. Not ideal. But what about longer ranges? Well, the damage drop-off distance for the CSRX 300 is, for some unfathomable reason, 25 to 35 meters, not the 25 to 40 meters that all of the DMRs and LMGs get. Why does the largest caliber gun in the game have a shorter drop-off range than some of the 5.56 caliber weapons? Your guess is as good as mine. Maybe there's some obscure little detail in the lore that explains it all, or maybe the dev designing the gun just forgot about the 40-meter convention and at this stage they've just decided to roll with it. Whatever the case, it doesn't really make any huge gameplay difference anyway, apart from the fact that it shortens the one-hit kill range a little bit. Even with no other mitigating factors, you will already need 2 body shots to down 3 speeds at 34 meters, and against 2 speeds, it's 30 meters. And at first, 2 shots might not even sound that bad. But of course, we need to keep in mind that the CSRX, the custom sniper rifle 10, has one of the worst aim-down sight times in the game, and its fire rate is a mind-bogglingly slow 50 RPM. That's 1 shot every 1.2 seconds. So yeah, any situation in which you need more than 1 shot is essentially a death sentence, because by the time that Kali is finished operating the fancy pants straight pull bolt action on this gun, even the lowliest copper player will have turned around and sprayed about 3/4 of their magazine at you. So far we've looked at only the most ideal cases, straight line of sight to the enemy plus successful body shot. And it only gets worse from here. The patch notes gleefully tell us that this change is good news for Rook, as his armor is now useful against her. Because of course, the probably most consistently overperforming defender of all time definitely needs a buff, right? Right? Once we apply the damage-reducing effect of Rook armor to the stats, you can see that it will take at least 2 shots to combat any opponent at any range except 1 speeds at 35 meters or more, where you will actually need 3 body shots because the damage drops below 50 points. 2 to 3 body shots with such a slow-handling, slow-firing gun is absolutely unplayable, and of course, we also need to consider that Rook plates give you a guaranteed DBNO, so even though 2 shots against the 3 speed add up to 194 points of damage, you still only get a down out of it, and you will need 1 more shot to finally take your opponent out of the game. So Rook's armor is now useful against her? My god, Rook basically makes the CSRX unplayable now that the patch is live. And even without a Rook on the board, limb strikes will need 2 or even 3 shots to take out an opponent. Shooting through even a single layer of soft cover or a single player character will reduce damage by 30%, resulting in 2 required shots for the target behind, and of course, pretty much every wall in Siege is double layered, resulting in even lower damage output even when hitting the body. And it can still get worse if you have a Rook on the enemy team and then you hit the limbs, or shoot through cover. Well, no comment needed. In a game where the difference in time to kill is usually in the millisecond range, having a gun that can take 1.2, 2.4 or even 3.6 seconds to neutralize an opponent and might then need an extra 1.2 seconds on top of that to finish off the downed opponent is beyond useless. Sure, removing the 1-shot DBNO mechanic might reduce some confusion with players who wonder why they died after receiving a headshot, or who wonder why their hit to the leg of an opponent didn't cause a down. But this new version of the CSRX is so user-unfriendly that players who seriously want to bring a Kali will only use her for her gadget and will then spend the rest of the round running around with a secondary SMG. Besides having a broken damage model, this change makes Kali probably the worst character in the entire game. But having said that, this change to a straight-up damage gun could still be made to work by tweaking some of the other stats. Removing the movement speed penalty while running with the rifle could be a useful first step. This current patch is all about getting rid of hidden effects, so I see no reason why Kali should retain her speed penalty. Beyond that, the devs could tweak the aim-down sight time, the hipfire spread, and the fire rate to take away some of the characteristics that make the CSRX such a pain to use. I understand where these bad stats came from. They made perfect sense back when the gun was still a 1-shot weapon. But now that you might frequently need 2 or 3 shots, bringing the gun's other stats more in line with other primary weapons in the game could make it viable to a degree. Now, I personally believe that it will never be possible to get a great balance out of a strong weapon like this. There will always be the frustration for defenders of dying to a single shot, and there will always be the frustration of Kali players at going up against high fire rate full auto weapons with a rifle that gives you 1 shot and 1 shot only to win your gunfights. You will never be able to pre-fire, and you will have to make sure that you are on target before firing the weapon, and compared to how the full auto guns play in Siege, that will always be a giant disadvantage. But maybe, just maybe, tweaking some of the terrible handling stats of the CSRX will at least make it kind of viable and balanced, even without the special 1-shot down mechanic. Or, of course, if the confusion around this mechanic really is such a huge problem, then maybe that could be fixed with a slightly better in-game description. This is a one-shot down gun, but only for body shots. Headshots will still kill instantly, and arm or leg strikes will only damage your opponents. Done. It could be that easy. But as always, those are just my thoughts. What do you think about Kali? Did you like her one-shot down capability, or are you glad to see it removed? Do you think they will be able to balance the rifle to still be viable as a straight-up damage dealer? Let me know what you think in the comment section below, and with that, many thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next episode.
I'm putting it down.